Welcome to our series on the Christ again. We are going to talk about another aspect of the Christ today. But before we do that, or let's say that today we would like to lay down another foundation regarding the subject of the Christ. And we believe that understanding the subject of today will help us differentiate the Christ from Jesus. What do I mean by the Christ from Jesus? Well, we have come to understand that the teachings of Jesus all have an esoteric meaning, and the names used in the Bible, the names used, the numbers, the places, the country's name, everything in the Bible has a deep meaning and has an esoteric meaning. Well, when we are calling Jesus, we are talking about the body of the Christ. Because when the Christ descends, a body must be prepared for it. And the Christ comes to abide in that body to do its work on this plane of physicality. And in the case of Jesus, the body that was prepared for the Christ is what we know by the name Jesus. The name Jesus is the name of the body that the Christ embodied in during those days, 2,000 years ago. In those days, the Christ came the Christ was incarnated through the body of Jesus. If we are familiar with the book of Hebrews, in the book of Hebrews, somewhere Jesus said, "You have not taken pleasure in the sacrifice of animals. Therefore, you have prepared a body for me." And the Father has prepared a body for the Christ to descend in and to fulfill its mission on the planet Earth. The body that was prepared for the descent of the Christ then is what we call Jesus. Does this make sense? That's why earlier on I was saying that when we understand the subject or the teaching of today, we will be able to understand that Jesus and Christ are two different things. It was when Jesus was baptized in the Spirit and became fully aware of the presence of the Christ within, and became united to this Christ through knowledge, through wisdom, through understanding, of course. That is when his name became Jesus Christ, or Jesus the Christ, which means before Jesus could get understanding, wisdom, and knowledge about his true self, his higher self, His name was simply Jesus. He was not addressed as Jesus Christ or Jesus the Christ. He was called Jesus. Just like today, you and I have a name. And people call us the name that they know us by. And when people want to address us, they call us by a name. But that name is the name that the body that we are in right now has received from this world of physicality. And sometimes the name is given by our parents or due to the circumstances surrounding our birth, many things. So many things determine the name that each one of us is bearing. But that name is the name of this physical body. It is the name that we have chosen, or it is the vehicle that we have chosen to incarnate in this time, to do the will of the Father on the planet. Now, what are we trying to say here? We would like our followers to have a clear picture of the constitution of the body. How is our body made up, or what is our body made up of? If we are not able to know or to differentiate our true self from our body, then we will continue in error, thinking that we are the body. But in reality, we are not the body. And in the book of Romans, Paul said, carnality is death. What does he mean by carnality? Carnality is not knowing that we are not the body is death. Because when we do not know that we are not the body, when we do not know that we are in the state the Bible calls death, we are in the state the Bible calls sin, we are in the state the Bible calls separation from the source, separation from the Father, separation from our higher self, our true being, our true self. Because as long as we are identifying with this body, thinking that we are just the body, we are limited beings. And because we are limited, we are in death. We are in separation. And thinking that we are the body, it's something that needs to be corrected in the whole body of Christ. Because most people think that they are the body, and because they are the body, they need a God who is outside of themselves. And they don't understand that in reality, we are not the body. And the God that we are talking about here resides in this body. Am I making sense? Am I making sense? When we look at the constitution of the body, we see, according to what Paul says, we see that we have three parts in this body. The Trinity is here. The Trinity is within this body. In our body, we have the Spirit. The Spirit which is our higher self. The Spirit which is our I am presence. We have the Spirit which is the divinity within. The Spirit of God is within this body. In the body, we also have the soul. And then we have the parts of our body that we call the body, which everybody can see in this world. So we are talking here about the spirit, the soul, and the body. I am speaking the language of the Bible, but for some, I might not speak this way. But I am speaking here the language of the Bible. So the three parts of our being, which are the spirit, the soul, and the body, are here, present in one body. Our spirit is this part of our being that is the higher self. It is the presence of the divinity within the body. It is the part of our being that does not know anything but goodness. It's a part of our being that knows nothing but light. It's a part of our being that knows nothing about good and evil, for all things in it is good. It's a part of our being that knows only blessing. It doesn't know what is curse, and doesn't even curse anybody, doesn't judge anybody, doesn't condemn anybody, doesn't punish anybody. It's a part of our being that is the representation of the divinity within, the spark of the light within. The spirit within, therefore, doesn't know anything about all that the soul goes through, though the spirit is aware of it. But the spirit does not become one with the soul until the soul reaches the level of understanding, wisdom, and knowledge. Our soul goes through stages of learning. The soul comes on this plane of physicality to learn. And it's only through learning experiences that the soul acquires knowledge, and the soul becomes consciousness. The soul becomes aware of its essence of being. Without experiences, without knowledge, without understanding, wisdom, the soul is used by the body to do all kinds of things. The soul is the part of our being that needs to be prepared to become one with the Spirit, to become one with God, to become one with the Supreme. But before the soul can do that, the soul needs knowledge. The soul needs understanding. The soul needs some experiences, because that's the only way for the soul to do this. It's the only way for the soul to reach that level of knowing itself and not identifying with the body. Our soul reaches a certain level of understanding and becomes one with the Spirit. And when the soul becomes one with the Spirit, we talk about the wedding of the bride and the groom, which has a spiritual meaning, because in reality, in the beginning, we were not separated from our higher self. In the beginning, we were one with our higher self. When the Bible says that man was created in the image of God, and how was man created? Male and female created them. which means our higher self, the divinity within, functions as these two principles of male and female. But when we come down to this plane of physicality, we were separated. Duality came in. And through duality, the man was cut off the female part of this being that we are, which means through duality, the male principle was separated from the female principle. And it's only through knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that these two principles become one again. And when these two principles, the female principle and the male principle, become one within, it is the term we use to explain that or to identify that is the wedding. The wedding takes place within when our male principle and our female principle become one again, and we enter the form of angels, because angelic beings have within the male and female principle. They have both principle within. They are not separated. Okay, though we can use some expressions to say, okay, this is a male angel, this is a female angel, but in reality, in the higher realm, there is no duality. There is no duality there. There is no polarity there. There is only oneness, unity. And you might not even know anything about male and female, but yet it is there. But on this plane of physicality, we are looking at everything from the perspective of male and female. But that is to help us understand something. That is to help us to understand that within this body of ours, the two principles are active. Remember, in the introduction of our series, we have said that the world we see is nothing but the reflection of what is within. You will not see anything outside here in this physical world unless it is in somebody. And the person has projected it out. That is why we see what we see around. So the world is in the state it is right now because humanity has forsaken wisdom. Humanity has forsaken knowledge, understanding. But in this age of Aquarius, when knowledge is poured out again, like waters, like in the days of Noah, and by these waters, the head of the serpent is bruised, because through knowledge, man becomes who he has been made to be on the planet again. Man returns into the Garden of Eden again. So when we are talking about the principle of male and female, this principle is active in everybody. But when we are dwelling in duality, when we are dwelling under the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the two principles are separated. They are not joined. They are not together. And therefore, division, separation, suffering, and all that we are looking at in the world now will be there until we enter into union with our higher self again and become one with our higher self. And the principle of male and female has returned to its original form again. And we can function again as angelic beings on this planet Earth, though present in this physical body. Our physical body is what all of us see. But let's not forget, or let's put it this way. The soul functions through this physical body to have the experience it needs or if I will use the word she, to have the experience she needs, to have the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding she needs to be prepared for her groom, which is what? The Christ, the higher self, the divinity within. The Christ needs the soul to do its works on this realm of physicality. And when the soul is made ready through its four components, what are the four components that the Christ uses to function on this plane of physicality? The mental body, the physical body, the emotional body, and the etheric body. These are the four bodies that the Christ uses to manifest itself on this plane of physicality. But before that happens, the soul must raise itself or herself. The soul must raise herself to become one with the Christ again before this can happen. Which means without the union of the soul and the Christ, without the union of our individuality and our higher self, the Christ finds it difficult to manifest itself through the four bodies that I just mentioned. So through this series, we are going to try as much as possible to help our followers understand that we have a part to play in this. But the part that we have to play in this should not be looked at as work. Because whatever we are able to understand in this, we should always bear in mind that it's by grace and it's a gift. It's by grace and it's a gift. We have not done anything to merit this. We have not done anything to think that it's because of this and that we are able to understand this. It's only by grace, which means before we continue, I would like our followers to bathe themselves in grace. In grace, what do I mean by that? What I mean is, let's understand that before we go any further in this, it's by grace. It's by grace. It's only by grace. And let's not think that we have something to fulfill, to accomplish in this before something can happen. No. Why? Because all that we are going to understand through this teaching is simply a reminder. It's simply a reminder because all this is already yours. I'm not teaching anybody here. I'm not teaching anything new here. I'm just reminding my brothers and sisters of something they have forgotten. This is what we mean by grace. It means you are not doing anything to get this, but you are humble and willing to be reminded of these things. That's all. It's grace. It's not something we merit. When you do something to merit something, or you do something and say, because of what I have done, I deserve this, it's no longer grace. And that means in first place, that thing was not yours. And you have to do something to get it. But this is not the case. This is not the case. We are not doing anything here to get something that has not been ours or has not always been ours. No. All that we are getting here as knowledge, wisdom, and understanding has always been ours. Always. Yes, but through forgetfulness, we forgot them. And now we are being reminded. It's all of them. All of them. All of them are ours. And it has always been ours. So now that we know these things and understand this, we can move forward. But we will end today's teaching here and continue next time. I love you. See you next time.